All right, let's bring in CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Good to see you as always, Tom.
Good to be with you, Renee.
So let's talk about this shift in Canada and Qatar's relationship from close friends to strategic partners. What does this all signal to you?
It signals to me that Mark Carney is taking very seriously what's happening south of the border. It would have been easy in the first few months to dismiss Trump's temper tantrums and his tariffs, but we now see that the great disruptor that is Donald Trump is having such an effect on the world stage that the European Union is coming together for a strategic meeting to figure out how to deal with Trump's threat to take Greenland, to steal a part of another NATO country. So it is that serious. I think that Canada is playing its cards well. We've got to be careful with the Americans on these issues. A half a dozen NATO countries like France and Sweden and Norway are sending troops almost symbolically into Greenland, saying this is not on. Trump is, of course, threatening them with new tariffs. He often says that, poof, you've got a new tariff, but actually nothing ever comes of it. So we'll see whether there actually is anything or whether the old rule of taco, Trump always chickens out, whether that applies. Now, we're going to see what happens in Davos, Switzerland, because there are issues of governance concerning the whole world that take place there. It is an interesting sidebar to recall that Pierre Poilievre, the current leader of the opposition and, of course, leader of the Conservative Party, has already said that if he were to form government, he would not allow any of his ministers to attend Davos conferences. These are conferences that are essential. Just look at who's going to be there. But he's going to be up for renewal with his party next weekend. And I guess he's trying to signal, and always has tried to signal, that he was going to be very different on these issues. There's a bit of a conspiracy theory there, and I don't think it helps Mr. Poilievre's credibility. But getting back to Carney, I think that what he did in China a couple of days ago, and what he's doing in Qatar, and what he is also going to be doing in Davos, Switzerland. Look, Renee, to put it simply, when Carney walks into a room, every single person in Davos, Switzerland knows exactly who he is. They want to hear what he's got to say. He's the Prime Minister of Canada, close ally of the United States. Give us your read. Read the tea leaves for us. Tell us what your take is. He's been the governor of the Bank of Canada. He's been the governor of the Bank of England. There's nobody in the world with that type of experience, and that's why Canada is very lucky right now to be able to have such a world player, because it's his ability to speak to everyone and bring in allies and work on these common issues that we're all dealing with that start with Donald Trump.
I want to get your thoughts on something that you brought up, and that is Greenland. The EU holding an emergency meeting today with Trump threatening tariffs on those 8 European nations in support of Greenland. Canada also supports Greenland. We're opening an embassy there. What's the danger that Canada could be next?
Well, that diplomatic mission to Greenland has been long scheduled, so it's not a reaction to Trump's recent threats, although it echoes from prior threats, because in his first mandate, he did talk about it. I think that keeping a cool head right now and not sending in Canadian troops, even symbolically, is probably the right move. We've got to keep channels of communication open with the Americans. We're part of NATO. And when Carney says, well, it's a NATO response that we need, and we're part of NATO, that's a signal that we will be part of the alliance's response, but we're not part of the European Union, of course. So I think he's got a little bit of leeway there, a little bit of wiggle room, simply because if we were to send in troops as part of putting down a flag and saying, this is not on, Mr. Trump, then it would open up another can of worms, and I think we've got quite enough of those right now.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Good to see you, Tom, as always. Thanks for being here.
All the best. Take good care, Renee.
You too. That's CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair.